At one point, I told my parents, I think I should be a musician, well, much to their delight. And I kept playing around, but at the same time, I was like, we should probably not only be the guy trying to make it in the music industry as a player, but maybe also see how records are made. So at the same time as I was practicing to get into a higher education as a musician, I started at the SAE in Berlin and got myself, I guess, I call it a driver's license for a studio. Know where everything is. You don't really have the experience yet, but you do it. All the music we grew up with. In my case, it was Michael Jackson. It was Queen. It was well, there was probably a lot of Madonna, but then later Rage Against the Machine or Cypress Hill, stuff like that. That all came out of the U.S. and of course the U.K. So I was figuring out, well, if I really wanted to be involved with these records that I see myself being a fan of, I need to go to a new place. And the way to do it, I felt like, well, do I just move to the US and try my best, or do I continue my education? So I actually went to Boston and studied at Berkeley. After graduating from Boston, I decided, well, once in my life, I should probably live in New York. So I moved right there, got a job at Sound on Sound, Dave Amlin's studio there. And, after some time doing the running and the assisting, you become your own engineer, you get your own clients. Actually, Sound on Sound became my first management, and things started snowballing. People seemed to like what I was doing, and we did a lot of hip hop and R&B and pop R&B, and it was a great time. And then finally, like 2004, a gig took me to the West Coast, and within a week, I called my wife and I was like, time to move. Weather's great here. Music is great here. I think we had our stint in New York, and it was beautiful. It was a sad time to leave too. I missed it for a long time, but now I'm fully West Coast based. There are a bunch of things that you try to shoot for. Music in your genre that you like or that you would love to work on, that hopefully get you the next gig, get you what you call the big break. But it's really what I find. It's like a combination of successful pieces here and there. There was the OutKast record in New York, and then later the Usher record was also in New York. But then on the West Coast, I fell into a situation with Prince and did his record, and then totally unrelated, even though they are friends, Terry Lewis and Jimmy Jam became clients of mine. So can I say there was one day when all of a sudden everything happened and now we're here? No. It's at this point a accumulation of 17 years of records being made and people remembering your name 6 years later going like, I want to make a new record with Richard. And that is really a better description, I think, of a successful career, being there for a long time instead of having one very successful record and then what, right? So that's how I look at it. I first got introduced to filter bank, compressor bank. Filter bank was really quickly the most used EQ in those sessions, in those early sessions. And then compressor bank it came afterwards somehow. But then actually in 2002, I believe, I also made myself a small studio at my place just to be able to serve to other clients that couldn't afford the big studios. And then again, I was looking at what do we need here, and the first call was McDSP. Over time, it became, it went from like I have two meat and potato plugins with filter bank and compressor bank to like a whole series that theoretically you could make the whole records with. Buy McDSP plugins, of course. That's the first thing. No, actually, for that, while you might think that's funny, now you have a suite that is literally all-encompassing. You have everything: reverb, compression, EQ, final limiting, some crazy sounds like Fuzzbox, some analog emulation like Analog Channel. But that being said, start making a record. I mean, this this world is so different now. You don't have to go to a studio to make a record. Being involved in great music is the way. So find yourself the genre that you want to work at and make the connections there. Don't work for free. I think it's wrong for people to assume that you should get started out working for free. Be involved with the genre that you want to be in. That's the most important. Part of them are the most famous one, like for instance the OutKast record working with Andre 3000 was amazing, and that was great music and obviously was well received. But then just 2 days ago I did a record for a band called Willow Dean, and they sent me the most emotional song I've heard all year. I was able to be involved with some really cool stuff like Frank Ocean, for instance. But at the same time, when it comes down to the song, it can come from anywhere. It can be the next thing. It can be something that you will never hear, unfortunately, for other reasons. But the point is, make the best record you can today, and I can only do the best job on it that I plan to do. And that's most important to me. As long as there's a good song on my plate today, I'm a happy man. I always look for delays that I can tweak a little bit on the spatial side. I am a fan of reverbs, of ambiances. I use a bunch of hardware reverbs because I think there's something special to them. But the same thing goes with the delays. If you just take, let's say we have an eighth on the vocal, and it sits mono behind the vocal, there's not much to that. It might disappear. It's just not very interesting. It doesn't get the vocal to be wider, or it doesn't add much to the sound in the way I look at it. What the EC300 does really well, for instance, in the dual mode, so you set two mono delays at 800 at an eighth, sorry, and then you use the offset button to like tweak them out by. I like it somewhere between 9 and 12 milliseconds. It just goes a little wider. Then you can do this really cool thing with a hidden knob up there called balance, I think. So because now you have the law of the first waveform coming at you when you spread a delay, which means the left side might be louder because it came at you first. So now I can use the balance knob to move that back. So I get a centered version of a wide delay, and then I use just regular pans on the return to decide how wide I actually want. And the same thing goes for that saturation knob that's in there to get a little bit of the dirt without me having to find a new type of delay or without me having to find a new distortion plugin right afterwards. It's exactly what I need from a delay in one unit. And I use it often specifically for lead vocals. Can be such a clean version of getting your gain up while still be able to control the single frequencies, especially when you're trying to push your mix to these levels and you're starting it to feel being pushed back by the limiting. Now you can, with the multibands, kind of at least you can tweak it in a way where the things that are most important to you don't get pushed back first, you know. There's a really cool feature now that's called Snap, which in my case I would play, for instance, a chorus, just because most of the time the chorus is the most excited part of the song. So I get a very quick idea of where my thresholds need to be, and still can, with a little master button, link all these thresholds and just massage it right around there. And I find you can get a very, very competitive level without too much intrusion into what you were actually trying to do beforehand. And the ML8000 really pushes it to a new limit there. The new 6050 channel strip plugin is kind of the best of both worlds of what used to be the 6030 and the 6020, the dynamic and the EQ collection. From these older versions of the plugin to this combined version of the plugins, you have what everybody likes now, kind of your 500 series rack in a computer. It's very fast, like the way that you have just the radio buttons on the left. It's really fast for auditioning. I just used it on a mix the other day on a piano and tried I tried the 33609 style, the British compressor, but tried 2 or 3 equalizers just to see, you know, because we listen to a song and go like, this needs some brightness. Well, you know, whatever, use your first stock EQ that you have, or try a couple of different ones and just go like, well, I want 6 dB at 10, I want 3 dB at 6K or whatever, but with these two styles, you get slightly different curves, and it might be a better fit. I don't have to make up my mind. I am trying to mold the sound with a couple of different ideas. That comes in very, very handy. I need a workhorse. When I start working on a sound, I need to be able to um, match some other stuff. For instance, I mean, I remember when the filter bank came out first, like I still use it to this day. It's one of my main vocal EQs still. I love the high end on it, or just how tweaky you can get with it. And so McDSP over the whole years, just with expanding the palette of their offerings, has always been in that realm of the most professional, the most reliable, and everybody will use them. So when it arrives at my place, I can continue using them. And I just wanna say